the same now. So I just wanted to find out if the Eswatini Competition Commission does some checkups just to find out if there is no price fixing in the different shops that we have around the country.
It's a pleasure, and thank you for having us on the program. Basically, maybe for starters, one must highlight that price fixing in terms of the law, the Competition Act, is not allowed. It actually falls under what is called per se prohibition, which is outright prohibition. It's just not allowed. That's where everything else stops, and we pursue that matter in accordance with the law whenever there are such issues. But in terms of, okay, maybe first and foremost, in terms of pricing, what happens is that most of the time, or if not all the time, price is influenced by the cost of production. So therefore, it becomes very difficult for us to actually, it's not within our scope to control as to how much someone must charge in terms of items at the shops. For instance, you will find that, I'm just making an example, if there is the cost of a square meter in terms of rental is almost the same, the cost of electricity the same, cost of water the same. So those people, will find that what they will charge in terms of pricing will be almost the same, because in terms of the input, it's almost the same in the items. So therefore, you will find that the price as well, that translates to the price. You will find that approximately the same prices were found, for instance, in some cases that the difference will be 1 lilangeni, 2 lilangeni, 85 cents, 75 cents. It's normal. So it's not in our mandate to say this is how much they must charge. As long as there is no agreement between the competing entities to fix those prices, which is what is called price fixing, whereby they sit down, competitors, to agree as to how much they must charge. That is not allowed by the law.
Having said that, Mangoba, how does the Commission ensure that economic concentration does not lead to unfair practices? We are looking at a situation where one holding company owns a significant number of other companies across different sectors. Doesn't that grant them power to manipulate prices?
Okay, first and foremost, maybe it's worth highlighting that dominance in the market is not prohibited. There's nothing wrong with being a dominant player in the market. I can also be in the multiple sectors and have dominance or influence in the market. I can be in agriculture, I can be in mining, I can be in a number of telecoms and stuff like that, but there's nothing wrong with that in terms of your influence. Otherwise, we'll be stifling competition ourselves, because what is key is that companies should be allowed to innovate. That is very important, to be innovative. You'll find that sometimes I'm dominant and I've got more influence in the market because I've got the capacity to be innovative, and therefore I find myself having to accumulate, but also I've got the capacity to buy. So no law says I mustn't buy if I want to buy some controlling share. What we look at the Commission, for instance, when there is a merger or an acquisition, because it is notifiable, you need to notify the Commission that you are actually buying some controlling interest in a certain company. We therefore look into things that might hinder competition. So if there are aspects of, if there are elements or in acquiring a company or merging that might hinder competition, we will have to look into those. Like I want to make an example again. Let's say I'm supplying quarry, and then also I've got a construction company. So I'm acquiring interest in that quarry. So acquiring interest in that maybe dominant, that has got a huge market, quarry company. What the Commission will look into things like, you shouldn't stop supplying other players in the market with the quarry just because they're also into construction. Such things. They need to look into the interest also of the public, that because we want to maintain a situation where it's still competitive, the other players in the market, the public or the consumer is able to choose between. So we will look into those elements that have got potential to stifle competition. Otherwise, we will not stop you from acquiring interest in the market.
You are making an example of a company selling quarry. How do you monitor that that company will not now sell the quarry of low quality to the other company because phela nyalo so unema interest naye so yayithengisa mhlawumbe so unenkampani leye yekwakha futhi so utawukhanza ukuthi lalabanye so bathengisela nje low quality?
Absolutely. Through our policy and research department, we don't just approve a major. If we have approved it with conditions, like in the example that I'm making, we would say you shouldn't stop supplying the others. Also, you should supply them good quality. You shouldn't just give them poor quality just because they are competitors, or also maybe raise prices in an unfair manner. So once it is approved with conditions, then we follow up as well. It is not just the end, to make sure that there is compliance with the law and also the stipulations of what we would have actually flagged in the major. And we have a policy and research department that follows up on a monthly basis in terms of looking at market behavior, prices in the market, especially in areas where we've got interest or priority areas. So we will be in a position to, because we do the monitoring, we will be in a position to know that now you are not acting in accordance with what was highlighted as a condition when the merger or the acquisition was filed.
There has been a concern that such concentration results in a monopoly. So I'm just wondering, how do you balance that with the fact that a business person has the capacity, they want to buy the business and create job opportunities? How do you balance that as a competition, ensuring that there is no monopoly situation, but at the same time, there is this one person who has the capacity to ensure that there is growth in a particular sector?
Look, like we are saying, the person has capacity to buy, is permissible by law for the person to have to acquire controlling interest in that company. Like you rightly put, there are issues of unemployment in the country, poverty, and other challenges. So we would not want, for instance, as a country, to find ourselves in a situation where companies are collapsing and people are losing employment. But whenever a company is, if you are acquiring interest in that company, like in the example you are making, we will have to look closely into issues of restrictive trade practices that might be there, things that might potentially hinder competition or lead to abuse of dominance, or some people may kill other businesses just because of this influence and then find themselves in a space where you are the only player in the market. So that is our role as a commission, to control that type of behavior. So those are issues that we will ordinarily pick up as a commission in terms of, by their very nature, having the potential to stifle competition. So we'll pick them up. Maybe it might be a refusal to supply, it might be issues of supplying others with poor quality, it might be raising prices in an unfair manner just to make sure that you remain the only one and others are closing down. So that is our role, to make sure that that doesn't happen. Otherwise, at the point of purchase, at the point of acquiring the interest, we will not, and it's not within our mandate to say you shouldn't buy, or you now have got, in fact, insofar as the laws of the country are concerned, it's not something that is illegal. There's not even a threshold like it happens in other countries where we'll say maybe 40, you can't have 40% of the market. We don't have something like that. So in accordance with the law, you're allowed to buy. As a commission, we'll look into issues of competition and act in the best interest of the consumer and the economy at large.
How does the commission monitor such acquisitions and takeovers in terms of market share and market control?
Yeah, there's no problem with that. There's no problem with me having influence in markets, as long as it's within the law. So what our interest is the behavior of the business entities insofar as stifling competition is concerned. So if you have got dominance in multiple sectors and there are issues of anti-competitive behavior there, then we zoom in. That's where we then enforce and carry out investigations to ascertain if there are issues of competition concerns. But if not, the market is free. It's a free market. Others will get into the space if they've got capacity. And then there's innovation, because that is our interest as well, innovation. Players must be allowed to compete as long as it's within the law, because competition now will lead to improved quality in terms of the products, but also to lead to innovation in terms of the nature of the products and the services. And as we do so, now it also opens the doors for employment opportunities, because improving quality and innovation, it means you will hire more people. It means you will get more expertise that is unique, and then people are getting jobs. And in that regard, therefore, as a commission, we act in accordance with the government's Nkwe program of action, where we are actually also playing a part in economic growth through contributing to employment and job creation, poverty alleviation, and wealth creation as a country. So that's our interest, and also it benefits the consumer at the end of the day.
How many cases have been reported to the Commission in the past year, or how many cases have you worked on as a Commission?
There are many cases, maybe for, other cases, I must mention that you will find that they are reported to us, and then we do some preliminary assessments to ascertain if it's worth an investigation in the first place. And in some instances, it's not worth an investigation, so we'll not pursue it. Where we feel there is an investigation that we can get. For instance, it's not a secret. The Eswatini matter is currently under investigation, and we have notified all parties. The public knows it's an issue that is of public concern. We are currently concluding that investigation is ongoing.
You are mentioning the issue of Eswatini. Would you say, as a commission, you are reactive or you are proactive as you deal with cases? Because ukhanza ukuthi kulesinye isikhathi sekuze kuyaphuma kuphumela la public ngikhani senicala kusukuma indzaba niyisebende.
Look, it happens in twofold. In fact, in various ways. First and foremost, it will be people that have got concern. Most of the time, you'll find that it's competitors or people that are whistleblowers or anyone. That would be easy because the information you'll find that is readily available. People have got the evidence, they've got the information, but I wouldn't want to divulge lots in terms of this one in particular because it's currently on an investigation that is ongoing. But also as a commission, on our own volition, we do carry out investigations. The one that I'm mentioning, for instance, the school uniform one, no one reported, it was just done by ourselves on our own volition as a commission.
What you are saying, Mangoba, is that dominance in business is not prohibited, but anti-competitive practices are. This has been a very insightful conversation. Thank you for joining us on Market View today.
For our enterprise.